Welcome to This Life, the Chronicles of Autism Mums, hosted by me, Alison Saraf. Each week, I'm joined by amazing women who happen to have autistic kids. Hasna, Moira, Suzana, Reen, Maha, Karina, Huma and Raana, our techie. Each week, we talk about navigating the ups and downs of parenting kids with autism and how that affected us and our lives as women, mothers and professionals. Strap in, grab some tissues. Sometimes you'll cry from empathy and other times from laughter. Join us on our journey of this life.
Hello and welcome to our podcast brought to you by Learn Autism. My name is Alison and I am with an amazing bunch of women who are parents of children on the autism spectrum. This podcast is all about us as mothers and as women primarily, all about our journey, how we've navigated parenthood with our children, and really getting to the nitty-gritty and talking about how we feel personally about our journey. So my name is Alison and I have three children. One son who is called Noah, who is 11 years old and on the autism spectrum. And I'm going to introduce all of our lovely ladies here this morning. And we're going to have a round table and we're going to go through and introduce them and they can tell us a little bit about themselves. And maybe a little bit about their children. So we'll start with Maha. Good morning, Maha.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Okay. Yeah, I'm all good, thank you. So thanks for joining us this morning. And please feel free to introduce yourself and tell our audience a bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, as Alison said, my name is Maha. I am from Australia. Egyptian background. I have been in Qatar now for 5 years with my family, my husband and my two children. My 12-year-old son, his name is Zane, is also on the autism spectrum. He was diagnosed when he was maybe 2 or 3 years old, and it's been an interesting journey sort of since then. He's currently at mainstream school, getting a bit of support there, continues to improve and continues to challenge with his different sort of stages that he goes through in his life. We're now about to hit the teenage years, which is a bit scary. I've spoken to some parents who apparently say things tend to get better at this time as well. So, so that's where I am at the moment.
Okay, great. And what about you? What do you do as a job, Maha? Do you work?
Yes, I am a chiropractor. So I've been a chiropractor for the last 20 years. So I'm working at the moment as well. So juggling work and juggling family is always challenging and fun. But it works.
Good. Cool. All right. Well, lovely to have you with us. And then we'll move. I'm just going around my grid here. So Moira, you're up next. Good morning, Moira.
Good morning. So
how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm Moira. I'm from Scotland. We have been in Qatar for 10 years, just about. And I have two children. And the youngest, Callum, is 11, almost 12. So he was 2 when we moved here. What can I say about Callum? From the beginning, when we moved here, we had just discovered, well, we hadn't actually discovered anything, but we had gone down the route of getting sort of assessments to see how he was. And in the UK, appointments are few and far between. So in between appointments, we ended up moving here. So very quickly, we tried to get him some speech and see how things went. Fast forward 10 years, he's been through mainstream and now he's back in a supported education, which I feel is probably best for him. I think I've jumped about a bit too much, but Callum is doing...
Yeah, so good. So good. It's so good.
Well.
How are you doing, Moira? You've said Callum is doing great. How are you doing 10 years on?
How am I doing? Well, I'm still on this roller coaster of some days it's great, some days it's not. And I think that is just life.
And I think it's the same for all of
on
us.
that roller coaster.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we're all on that boat. Yeah.
In the house
Yeah.
sometimes
So
in the park.
Moira,
So,
tell us when you're
it's just children.
tell us about you. Tell us about you as a person. Like, tell us about what your background is in, and what you were doing pre children and Qatar life.
Well, I haven't worked for money since
Yes.
born.
That's a good response.
I had fully intended to, but made redundant during maternity leave, and by which point Callum was in the picture. So yeah, I have been at home with the children the whole time. Very keen to get back to work, but it's not so easy.
It's a big job. Thank you, Moira. Good morning, Karina.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Wonderful. I'm really good. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Karina, please tell us about yourself and introduce yourself.
Sure. I am Brazilian. Been in Qatar for 14 years. Moved to Qatar because I got a wonderful opportunity to work here. I came as just me, and met my husband here. We got married. He's Turkish. We have twins. And one of our boys has autism, Rafael. So what happened is when he was around 16 months, he start having the, not meeting the milestones and everything. We got the diagnosis. And the doctor said he was going to be, he was not going to speak. So what I did, as a family, we decided that I was going to put my career aside and dedicate all my time for him. And I did that. And interestingly, I started learning about autism and I became passionate about it. And the more I learned, the more I want to learn about other learning disabilities and everything. And I started studying and I fell in love with the whole thing. And now I work as a learning support assistant. I mean, it's been 6 years now, and I help children every day with learning disabilities, and that's my passion. So from my son, it transferred to, a whole new world and new opportunities. So I think
that resonates with so many people, that what their career was and what their career is now really changes and takes a different direction based on the situation with our kids. What were you doing before, Karina?
I was a logistics manager at the airport.
Okay, so a totally diverse field that you've gone into, and I know that you're getting your master's in special education as well. So yes. That's a big turning point and an amazing achievement as well. So thank you for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.
And then we'll move to Suzana. Good morning, Miss Suzana.
Good morning, Alison. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Very good. So my name is Suzana and I'm Jordanian. I've been living in Qatar for almost 10 years. And actually that's almost how old Victor is. He'll turn 10 next month. And we moved here when he was only a month and a half old. So it's been definitely an interesting journey for us as well. I'm sure everyone has their own stories about, how they found out about what's going on with their kids. So you want me to talk about myself first and then about him? Something like that? Yeah.
Well, we want to hear about you.
Yeah. So I actually used to work in the hotel industry. I was in the sales and events, so under sales and marketing department. And it was something that I really loved to do. However, after getting married and moving around to a few different countries, we ended up here in Qatar. And with having Victor and not really having a lot of community or support, I kind of also stayed at home. I haven't really worked much either. Although I am now finishing my life coaching certification. So I'm going to be graduating in a couple of weeks. So
Amazing.
I'm really excited about that. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you. So this is it.
Do you think that was there a point in your was there a point where you decided? Was there one point that you kind of made a decision to do the life coaching courses?
I think that for me was probably it goes a little bit further back. I think I've always been interested in psychology. It was kind of what I wanted to go to university for. But at that time, for like certain family circumstances, it didn't work out. And although I did love my work in hotels, etc., it was just all like by coincidence. I never really planned on getting into that field. I just loved it once I did get in it. And then with moving countries, because my husband is also in the hotel industry, so you tend to move every once in a while. So I was never able to kind of find my own thing, which brought on the idea to find a kind of job that can be basically mine, that I can control. Because like obviously like a 9-to-5 job with a little kid on the spectrum is not really very, well, for me, it wasn't very realistic. But also, I think I had a lot of my own traumas and pains that I needed to go through, and just going on that journey of learning how to navigate that was kind of what brought me to finally find the right course to take. And I'm really happy to kind of like reach this point right now.
Amazing. I want to talk more about that as well, because I think it's interesting how they parallel with the autism diagnosis, and obviously what you're doing is I think it's interesting how they run together. So we'll come back to you on that.
Thank you.
Hasna, good morning.
Well, I'm Hasna. My son Faisal and now my son Omar both have an autism spectrum diagnosis. Faisal just turned 14 and Omar just is turning 5. I can say that, since I mentioned that I have 2, I can say the difference between the first time around and the second time around. And I can just briefly say that the first time around, it really did feel like it was the end of the world, maybe for a couple of months until I figured everything out. The second time around, while the initial shock, let's say, because I don't think it's shock. I think it's trauma. The initial trauma of just going through this again was like, it threw me off a little bit. But I can say that by 3 days, he was already in services. I was already very proactive. I already saw a lot of hope. I already knew what to do. So that told me a lot about myself, not as much about, the situation, because situations continue to repeat themselves. But the way my mind is positioned now after 10 years of autism parenting experience is very different. So I could see what I needed to do. I could see past it. I no longer had that stigma in my mind around autism, because, we've all learned to embrace our kids just as part of diversity, not just like different people. I mean, they're different, but they're not necessarily disabled or only disabled, so we've removed that stigma. We've learned to see that like people on the spectrum are just part of human diversity. And I think with that understanding and conviction going through the diagnosis the second time around, it was almost liberating. So yeah, that's what I'll say for now, but I'm sure we're going to dig into so much during the course of this thing. But yeah,
sure we will. Tell us a little bit about yourself as well.
I've always been a working woman. So I did for a few years, just sit at home with the kids and just focus on that. And I think it wasn't until, and I did a lot of PR, I was in finance before, but then after the diagnosis, all of that shifted, and I started really a career supporting without even planning on. I was just looking for services for my son. And then I began a career that is focused on trying to just provide better lives, provide services, just improve the lives of people, individuals on the spectrum and whatnot, and also different learning or developmental disability, just like being more inclusive in general, like trying to make the world a more inclusive space. It has been my mission, I would say. So yeah, I work and I have a lot of projects and I do a lot of advocacy, but I think that's a natural thing. I think all of us mothers are actually advocates, whether we want it or not. Automatically, we're advocating, we're fighting with the schools, we're discussing, this is all advocacy. So we're all, I think the job that we all share is we're advocates. That's what we are. We're mother advocates.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. And now on to Huma. Good morning, Huma.
Good morning.
How are you?
Very well, thank you. Sorry, my voice is a bit.
Not at all. We're so happy to have you. Tell us about you. Tell us about Huma. Tell us about your experience.
Well, I've been in Qatar 12 years, and my son, my eldest, Haider, he was 1 year old when I moved to Qatar from Pakistan. And then I had 2 little ones here. Haider was diagnosed around because he was my first, and I wasn't very social at that time, so I didn't have a lot of interaction with kids that age. So it was around 2 years old when my pediatrician. I also noticed that something was off, but I just couldn't put my finger on it. And but then she mentioned that he might be autistic, and I had no idea what autism was at that time. So then we went on this roller coaster journey of looking for therapists and places where we can get some help. And it was difficult at that time, but eventually we found some really nice people who really helped my son along. And I met some wonderful parents who were with me on that journey. Some of them are in this group right now. Haider always, he went to mainstream school with an LSE, a shadow teacher, of course. He's always had one. It's been challenging. But he's doing really well. He's headstrong and opinionated and funny, and I love I love everything. It's a battle. It's a continuous battle, but it's a lot of fun. It's exhausting, but it's a lot of fun. I studied psychology in Pakistan, and then I went on to study graphic design. I haven't worked in those fields. Whenever I try to think of work, finally when all my kids were in one school, and I thought I could work now, but then my son needed me in school, so I couldn't. So I thought it's okay, So I've been working at the school in parent association till pandemic hit, and so that's it, and so that's all right. I would rather reserve my energies for the kids. I don't think I can do both things. My other two, my 9-year-old and my 7-year-old, I have a boy and a girl. They both had speech delays, and they required from a few months to a year of therapy, but after that, they're fine. They didn't need any behavioral therapy. But with Haider, and he's also in his teenage now, so he's just waiting for his wings and leave the house. He wants to be independent ASAP. So let's see. So it's interesting. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Huma. Thank you for sharing that. And then last but absolutely not least is Reen, beautiful Reen. Good morning.
Hi. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Alison.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
You're so welcome.
My name is Reen, and I'm from Malaysia. I've been here since 2007, so that's coming to 15 years. Yeah. That was when my eldest son, Mikal, was only 4 months old. And I have 3 children altogether. So Mikhail's the eldest, who's on the spectrum, and I've got one who's 1 year younger than him, and I've got a girl who's 10 years old. Our journey has been a roller coaster. It wasn't as it wasn't easy at first. It was very, very challenging. I mean, he was meeting all the milestones except for speech. So, at that time, it didn't click to me that he had autism. I'm aware of autism, but I wasn't a specialist in autism. I didn't know that much, all I knew that, and I didn't know there was a spectrum of kids on autism. So obviously it didn't click with me. And so I just got him assessed for speech in the beginning because he had severe delay. And then a best friend of mine at that time, who has experience with kids with autism, actually, spoke out and told me, like, I've got to tell you this, it might sound harsh or brash, or it might, hurt you, but I think he's on the spectrum. And that completely shocked me. And, but I had to do something. I couldn't just sit around and wait and not do anything. But, trying to get an assessment done back then here was very difficult. There was very limited resources. There was a long waiting list. And at that time, people did not talk much about autism, and there was no one to talk to about autism. You had to Google things, but information online was just so overwhelming that you don't know what to do and where to start. But alhamdulillah, thank God, he is doing really well right now. He has always been in a mainstream school and has always had an 8, but this year is the first year that he's going to school without an 8, and he's loving his independence. He's loving to actually be by himself, and I think he's doing pretty well according to the school. So I am happy. Less anxiety now than before, and let's see where it goes. We have plans for him, hopefully after high school, college, and uni. But let's see.
Hey, cool. Thank you, Reen. Thanks for that introduction. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, yeah, sorry. Well, I am a stay-at-home mom since we moved to Doha. I was initially working. I graduated in IT, and I was working in the banking sector for 8 years, and then we moved here, and I thought that I could start working once he started nursery, but since after that I had another baby, and then he got assessed.
But fair enough to say, Reen, you did help the autism community and the special needs community a lot. You did have a few initiatives, and you brought in some people, some specialists. Yeah. So you have been active in the field. I mean,
yes, yeah. We actually started the first support group under Doha Moms, which was called the Out of Sync. So it was myself, Roxanne, and 2 other moms who started that. And then, a few years ago, I started a small consulting group because I do travel a lot and I do meet a lot of people, and I try to bring in specialists from abroad and ideas from abroad here, and trying to exposing the community to what is available out there rather than what is only available here. So that's me. Thank you.
Thank you, Reen. Thank you. And also, I'd like to introduce Raana Smith, who is also here. Raana, would you like to introduce yourself? Okay.
My name is Raana. I'm from the United States. I have a son who's 11 and a half, almost 12, Ayub, and he was diagnosed with sensory processing disorder. So I'm not an autism mom, but I am there with you guys. I'm supporting you, and I am hopefully trying to.
And you've been, and to be honest, you've been active in the field like for a long time, trying to support. And let's say that sensory processing disorder does have a lot of not similarities. It does share a lot of the traits, especially the sensory traits of our kids. And you were looking for a long time for diagnosis too. So it wasn't like you were trying to find out what was going on. So it's almost like a shared experience. Yeah.
I just couldn't understand what was going on with him, and it didn't fit into ADHD and this and this and this. But anyway, I am here to support you all. I'm the techie person, so I'm kind of behind the scenes. So and ready to hear your amazing stories and to be inspired even more by each and every one of you.
Thank you, Raana. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, ladies. This has been a wonderful start to this podcast. Thank you for sharing the stories. They've been super insightful, and we look forward to seeing you on the next podcast. Have a great day.